Good afternoon, Edward Campbell, June 1st, 2017, Bozeman, Montana. Okay, so I wanted to follow up on the issue of barbarism. Since I brought that up, I wanted to drag out the sources for the word. And there are three sources within the Greek library. And the first use of the word barbarian comes from Homer. Thucydides discusses it, which is something I'd already known about, but the Strabo I did not know about. So I went through and yarded that out of Strabo's geography and translated it. It's on the selected works page on my selected works VH Campbell. It's on the page right now. The discussion really centers around the use of this one word right here. And because there's two possible ways of understanding it. And this is one of the reasons why when we get into this, seems to be perennial argument about hasn't this been done before, that it is incumbent upon us to continue to reassert the need for you to really understand these works, and that at the very least you should be taught how to read the letters so that you could at least look something up. It seems to be anybody who's in your basic liberal arts that everyone has to take should at least have to memorize the alphabet, the alpha, beta, if you want to know what that means. So what I'm going to do is I'm not really going to teach you the Greek and all of this. I'm going to read you some of it and then give you my understanding of what the word barbarian means. Since in fact this is not actually the word barbarian, this is Barbarophono, and which is either from the verb barbarophoneω, which I understand to mean to babble nonsense or to speak gibberish, or it is an adjective, barbarophonos, barbarophonos. So this is the subject of the sin, Gnostes. And so this says Gnostes. This is where this controversy, Gnostes, this controversy comes because as a translator, I can only give you really one version. Unless as I do things as a philologist, I can put something in the footnotes to give you an alternative understanding in the annotations at the bottom of the page. But typically when you, in the universities, they give you a cheapo paperback which is just translated with no discussion of the language itself. It's just there in English translation. And that author is frequently confronted with these types of problems, these issues, and is simply forced to choose one. Okay, so this is the subject, Gnostes. This is the adverb. Again, I explained this in a different video. I already went over this one sentence right here in an earlier video. This is the adverb. Once again, right? Once again, anew, afresh, once more. This is the feminine genitive plural, right? Feminine genitive plural, feminine genitive plural of kara, which is a race of Greeks. They're Greeks. I mean, they speak Greek. This is part of how the controversy even deepens, is that they're Carians. These are people who were fighting on the Trojan side, which is another thing you should understand, is that the Trojans and the Greeks are also very, very closely related. They don't speak different languages. They speak a dialect of Greek. So this is the Carians. Right? Genitive plural, right? This is third singular aorist middle indicative. Okay. Third singular aorist middle indicative of a. Make sure I get it right. Hegeomai. Which means to go before or to lead the way. To lead the way. Alright. To lead the way. This is an aorist middle. This word is two possible different things. This is either masculine nominative, singular present active participle. Masculine nominative, singular present active participle. Or it is masculine genitive plural, masculine genitive plural, adjective, this is a participle, this is a participle, this is an adjective, masculine genitive plural of barbarophoneos, of There's the accent there. Accent markers here. So this is either an adjective or it's a participle. You see a lot of these kinds of things in doing this work. Barbaric. That's right. Barbaric. Let's see, where did I get it right? Barbaric. This is a phoneo. This is a omega. And the accent goes there. Barbaric. That would mean that this is a feminine now. You see, this is kind of the problem here. That would mean that this word modifies this word, right? If this is taken to be an adjective, this is an adjective that describes this word. So that would say, Nastes once again led the babbling Carians Nastes once again led the babbling Carians. Or it says, or this word as a participle modifies this word. See? Two completely different ways of understanding this. This would say, once again, Nastes, babbling nonsense, led the Carians. As this word led here could take a genitive. Could. So when you're doing these kinds of things, you have to wonder sometimes whether or not the author has deliberately and skillfully constructed this sentence so that it says both things. But as a translator, I can only give it to you one way, right? So let's just presuppose that it really is two things. That this is intended to be read in two different possible ways. So not only does he say that Nastes is a barbarian because he babbles nonsense, but that the Carians are also barbarians because they babble nonsense. Or does it just mean, is he just saying it about this one guy, or is he saying it about all of the Carians? That seems to be the question. So, in English, Nastes, once again, led the Carians babbling nonsense. Or, Nastes once again led babbling Carians. They held Miletus, both the leafy mountain of Phytheres, and the river winding, and the river winding, and the river winding. Huh. Now see, why do I give it to you that way? Why do I say the river winding? River winding. Is it just because you don't see it that way anywhere ever? You never see it that way. This is river winding. The river winding, which is the what? Which is the meander. The river meanders. Meander, the river winding. And the river winding in the lofty peaks of Mucalla. And for them, their leaders were both Amphimachus and Nastes. And Amphimachus and Nastes were the famous children of Namion. And he, like a silly girl, wore his gold to war, something which indeed was not strong enough to save him from a mournful death, but was overpowered in the river at the hands of a swift-footed son of Iacchus, and warlike Achilles took his gold. Okay. So, what I said before was that you have this bar, and then you have this word phonos, right? And I said phonos is a sound. It's a sound. But a sound is not necessarily a word. So what is this? Blah, 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 right? And this is what they're saying. He's making sounds, but he doesn't make any sense. So let me move on to what Thucydides says about it. This is probably what you're most likely going to hear in a classroom from the English teacher who's going to teach this. And Homer proves it best. Okay, let's see, where is this? Let me write it down. Thucydides. And Homer proves it best. For although he was born at a very much later time than the Trojans, he nowhere calls them, i.e. the Greeks, altogether by one name except those with Achilles from Phthia, whither the first Hellenes. But in his poems he calls them Danaans, Argives, and Achaeans, or Achaeans. Nor again has he used the term barbarian, because there were no Hellenes at the time, and so their rivalry was not designated under one name. So this leads us to the idea that there are Greeks, and everybody who is not a Greek is a barbarian. Okay? This is frequently what you're going to hear. You know, oh, xenophobic racist, racist. But as I was saying with that, we're talking about making sounds that don't make any prejudice. They're racist. Racist! They're racist. We're just going to have to find a college professor and beat his head into a concrete wall for teaching this stuff. Maybe we can organize, shot him down, and demand gumbo. This is Strabo. This is Strabo. Gumbo. Where's my gumbo? Strabo. You know, you can click off and stop misappropriating my culture anytime you want. Fact of the matter is that you kids are in college at all, you're misappropriating my culture, right? You know, if you study this stuff, you're not misappropriating it, you know. But to go to our schools and do these kinds of things that we've seen recently, it's misappropriating my culture. So, if you don't want to misappropriate my culture, click off. So, Strabo. But when the poet says this, once again, Mastelas, which is taken to be a error for Gnostes. But there's something I wanted to point out about that. About this word Mastelas. And we have to think about the fact that he's described in that passage as wearing gold to war. Because we're thinking about not only the sound, but we come to things which are considered to be barbaric behavior. Evergreen State College comes to mind. So what is this word Mastelas? Masteles. See, most translators take this to be a mistake on Strabo's part, where he meant to say Gnostes, but instead he said Mastelas. But Mastelas is a masculine nominative singular, which means a leather strap. But metaphor, a supple knave. Supple knave. Who was that in that video? Who was the supple knave in the video that we were all watching? The supple knave. An unscrupulous man, supple, flexible, willowy, and nimble. Isn't that sweet? Once again, Mastelas led the Carian barbarians, if you're taking the word in as an adjective. He has no reason at all. But when the poet says this, once again, Mastelas led the barbarians, he has no reason at all, knowing that there were so many barbaric peoples, for saying the Carians alone speak barbarically, but calls not one of them barbaric. He doesn't use the word barbaric. He uses this verbal adjective. It's participle. Babbling nonsense. Verbal. Nor indeed is Thucydides correct when he says that he, in fact, does not say barbarians because there were no Hellenes at the time. So their rivalry was not designated under one name. By saying that there were no Hellenes at the time, the poet convicts him of falsehood, for there was widespread report about a man from Hellas and Middle Argos. And moreover, if you wish to undertake it, this is a quote from the Odyssey. Is this let me see, pushed to undertake it. Achieved Hellas and Middle Argos. This is from the Odyssey. If they were not said to be barbaric, how is it possible for you to say that it is babbling? Neither he nor Apollodorus, the grammarian, who says that the Hellenes use this term in a personal and abusive way towards the Carians and the Ionians, hate them very much on account of enmity of continuous expeditions. It was fated for them to be called barbaric. It was fated, it was necessary to call them barbaric. But we ask, why does he call them barbaric in speech, but not barbaric even once? Because he says the plural does not fit into the meter, and on account of this he did not call them barbaric. But although this falling, i.e. declension, does not fall, i.e. within the meter, but this is not true of the Dardanian Trojans, both Lucians as examples of words that don't fall into the meter either. Lucians and Dardanians, and like manner, quote unquote, what kind of Trojan horses, and that in fact is not because of the rogue tongue of the Carians, because it isn't, but in fact, as most Hellenic words have been mixed to it, so says Philip in his Carcia. I think the word barbarian from the beginning was pronounced in a manner of making a word by the imitation of a sound for those who babble both harshly and roughly in the manner of stammering and stuttering, both lip-syncing and faltering in speech. We are most naturally disposed to name sounds with sounds of equal force according to their family, wherefore there are in fact more than enough words that have come about through the imitation of sounds around here, such as the trickling of water or the barking of a dog. So that would be the imitation barbar. Most of their authority is already carried away. For indeed, all of those being called barbarians speak with a thick accent. It seems to me all men of other ethnic groups which are called barbarians have a mouth with thick lips, and whom I say would not be Hellenes. Privately, they call those men barbarian. In the beginning, it was because it was an abusive thing, because of their thick lips and their rough speech. After that, we proclaimed it to be the name of common peoples, logically distinguished from the Hellenes. And of course, through a lot of mutual exchange and much confusion, the term came no longer to be used for barbarians on account of their thick lips and want of natural ability, it being agreed that it was due to the organs of their speech, but because it was a peculiar manner of speaking. And when someone in discourse with us shows faulty pronunciation, and it is in a barbarous manner, and if someone is speaking Greek incorrectly, but should pronounce words like a barbarian, not accurately imitating Greek and not like us in their dialect, and it is mostly in agreement with the Carians, because others who were neither being very well assimilated with the Greeks, nor even attempting to live either Hellenically or even learn our dialect, unless some rare men, by favor of the gods, happen to mix together with us, on account of the fact that the Greek man is one of the few, but there are whole groups of those wandering through Hellas, marching with the army for pay. Therefore, barbaric, on account of military campaigns, was firmly established in Hellas, and later on this became much more prevalent, and from that it afterwards came to inhabit the Greek islands. Thence it fell out in Asia, and even there they were unable to live separately from the Greeks after having first spread through the Ionians and the Dorians, but it is for the same reason it is called speaking gibberish. For this we have become accustomed to say it is for speaking Greek badly. This is the other one you're going to see. So this is the other one you're going to see. So, okay, this is the other common thing that you're going to see. Okay, A. Because they are not Greek. The other one that you're going to hear is speaking bad Greek. Those are the two main things that you're going to hear when you discuss the issue of barbarians. So this is kind of a long-winded way of getting around this. We say it is for speaking Greek badly, not because they are babbling in Carian. It therefore, in this way, speaking barbarically and doing barbaric things came to be the received opinion, and from speaking Carian and acting barbarically came metaphors for the art of bad Hellenism, and making a solecism came either from the soli or otherwise forged from this word. I say it's neither one of these. I say that it's really not neither one of. I mean, in a way, in certain kinds of connotations in the developments over a period of time, this seems to be. Each one of these things could be said to be true. It's like sometimes it's speaking barbarian, speaking a foreign language. But how does this, what's the relation between what we consider to be barbarics? For instance, we look at our enemies to this at the enemies at this time that America's fighting, and we call them barbaric. But that's not because they speak a foreign language. And it's not because they're foreigners and that we're a group of people who are separate from them, so we call it. That's not the reason. The reason is when I said about this word phonos, is that speaking a sound, the trickling of water, the barking of a dog, making sounds like that, is not necessarily speaking a word, and that there's a correlation between poor articulation in speech and irrational action. And that's, truthfully, I believe, is how barbaric, acting barbaric, speaking barbarically fuse together. So that's what I say it is. I think that resolves the matter. I was going to write something, but Strabo can say that it's speaking bad Greek, but Strabo himself could easily be convicted of writing bad Greek. This translating that was not fun. I know I just read it, and it's like it's stammering and stuttering all the way through. The guy uses the present tense where we would normally use the past. He leaves out the subject, and it's supposedly an assumed subject, which I hate doing. I like to have things clear. We're supposed to fill in the blank kind of thing. So barbarianism is about speaking gibberish and acting barbarically because they have faulty reasoning capacity. That's the real reason. That's what I say. So anyway, I got rid of that issue. You see, you got to be careful. You got to be careful about these tangential kinds of things because you end up into a form of infinite regress, trying to track down every single thing that is related. You can end up going on tracing endlessly through the entire Greek library, tracking down every single thing. Okay, so this is the one. Oh, okay, so this one is for. Okay. Evergreen State Colony, which is about to lose its state status, maybe. If you want to understand what's going on at Evergreen State College, I think it's probably a good idea to read why. Okay. The system of Dr. Char Professor Feather. Assistant of Dr. Tom, Professor Feather, right? Yeah. It's probably a relatively good description of what's going on at Evergreen State College. I think already far too much has been said about it anyway. I think the people who are doing this have pretty much shown who they are. They're privileged. College education is not a right. I didn't get one, so if you want to learn something solid, you can do it. You don't need college to do it. So, man walks into a bar, right? You know, they got this bar in Olympia there. You know, it's like the Union Bar. Everybody drinks Pabst Blue Ribbon because it's like the working class beer. They all spy over at guys like, it could be the FBI, man. It could be a spy, man. You know. So, man walks into a bar, right? And Dr. Tarr's sitting there on the bar stool, and Professor Feather walks up, and he's got a little drinky poo, right? And he says, particularly nasty weather. And Dr. Tarr, he says, I got to use the little boy's room. And Professor Feather says, I'll be right behind you. Okay. So we took care of that. I told you don't have to watch my videos. See, I can be satisfied like Socrates that I don't have to teach anybody that I don't want. Right? He brought that up. You know, people pay for education, then you got to teach them whether you like them or not. I wouldn't teach a single one of those fucking brats there. Okay, so this is Islamic State. Islamic State. This is the enemy. This is the enemy that Dr. Tarr and Professor Feather are hoping to find in the restroom. So if you want to understand this, then this is the one. This is the one you're reading. How do you spell this? Let's see. I gotta get it. Dissented Maelstrom. This is the one you want to read if you want to understand what's going on with this war we're in here. Europe's got a fifth column in it. It's not about terrorism. I think I explained before that this is about conquest. World conquest. There's nothing new about world conquest, is there? Yeah, they're trying to take over the world. Yeah, sure, right. Well, yeah, sure, right. It's exactly what they're doing. So, imperialism, see, even Brett Weinstein is misappropriating my culture, right? See, because as a biologist, he would understand that Aristotle is really the basic source of his science. And if he studied his Aristotle, he would know that this kind of like so-called direct democracy that these children are involved with is the worst kind of government because it always turns into tyranny, right? And so you remove this from the curriculum. These children are effectively, not unknowingly, seeking a tyranny. But the faculty doesn't know anything, and the inmates of the asylum know still even less. And so, if all historical conclusions are inevitable conclusions, R.G. Collingwood, The Idea of History. All historical developments are necessary developments. So they're reaping the harvest. They're reaping what they've sown. Evergreen State College is reaping the bitter harvest of the poison weeds that they've planted. So, I mean, I can feel sorry for the dude because he seems like a nice guy, but still Evergreen State College has created inevitabilities. This isn't the first time these students have gone off in that college. Flipping cop cars, and smashing bank windows out in downtown Olympia, spray painting shit all over the college, and then they got the maintenance guys out there painting over it when he has better things to do, and all sorts of really childish behavior that emanates from Evergreen. So, I mean, they're reaping what they've sown. So, all historical developments are necessary developments. And this matter of the descent into the maelstrom that we're talking, or that I'm talking about here, is what I'm saying is that you need to understand that this is not just terrorism. This is an articulated strategy of global conquest. And so now you've got the fifth column inside of Europe. And you're going to have to deal with this, and the more you substitute tolerance for nationalism and national sovereignty, the heavier price you're going to pay. Certain decisions that are being made are going to create inevitable conclusions. And probably the United States should be worried about, whether or not we're going to be dragged into a war to defend Europe. I mean, if there's one place that we can't lose, it's probably Suez. And after that's probably Europe. After that's probably Japan. But the archipelago of the Iliad that's streaming across the world, we're watching Philippines is going up. So they already planned for the fact that they're probably going to lose in Iraq and Syria. They've already designated the successor to al-Baghdadi. They've already made plans. They're way ahead of you, man. Way ahead of you. They're 3-4 moves ahead of you. And sooner or later, it's disgusting to see the travesty, the dereliction of the European leadership. The travesty of what's happening in the UK. It's just terrible. It's awful. So, I mean, our best decision is to make sure that the fifth column, we've got a fifth column here, but it ain't strong enough. The UK has a fifth column that is strong enough to cripple that place. It's already big enough and dangerous enough. And so does France, and so does Italy. Oh boy, what they can do. Oh man. So, I hope the libertards are happy, are satisfied with yourselves that, that we're going to lose, this culture is going to be destroyed. They're out to destroy the culture. You know that, right? It's not about, we'll just throw our welcoming arms around them and they're just going to love us because we gave a bunch of free shit. The socialists are siding with them because that's exactly what they want to create, a crisis where they think it'll give them an opportunity. But obviously the ISIS people, the Islamic State people that are coming into Italy and stuff, the socialists who are bringing them there are weak. They're not even close to strong enough to assert a socialist government that our enemies are going to comply with. That's not going to happen. Okay, so was there anything else? Oh, yeah, there was. Okay. Gender. Oh, yeah, okay. Gender. I have to, I see. So we're hearing this all the time now. Now that there are 76 genders, we hear there's only 2 genders. There's only 2 genders, but there's not. There's 3 genders. And I know this makes people uncomfortable. When I teach this stuff, and Now, maybe I should, what are the pronouns that they're using at Oxford now? Maybe I don't know if I can look, should I look this up? New pronouns at Oxford. Will it give it to me? Pronouns. No, it's just giving me. Oh, university announces new pronoun to replace he and she. This is he, she. University announces new pronoun to replace he and she. Oxford University, it's okay, click off if you don't like it. You can't have it, get all triggered and shit. I don't give a fuck. It's not my fucking problem. Oxford University encourages their students not to use gender-neutral pronouns so as not to offend transgender undergraduates. Instead of saying he or she, the university said in a leaflet that everyone should now be referred to as Z. This is the point that I want to make. Gender is not a social construct. This structure is a product of intuitive cognition. Even animals have it. Intuitive cognition. I don't care what Kate Wallenstein says. I don't care what any of these other gender super freakers say. Okay? They didn't think their way out of a paper bag. Just because they're transgender doesn't make us smart, okay? This is intuitive cognition. If you look at, say, for instance, crows or magpies, you can't tell the boys from the girls, right? So what do you say? You say it, right? You see a rock, a stone sitting there, you say it. You don't call it a he or a she, you call it an it. Right? This kind of thing is, you're trying to say that everyone is going to become this. You can call it Z, but, a dog, a dog is a dog is a dog. It's dog in English. Arrow in Spanish. I mean, you want me to look up a bunch of different. But a dog is still a dog is a dog. Bird is a bird is a bird. Fish is a fish is a fish. This is like going back to Plato's ideal forms. A dog. Can you change what something there's? Can you change what something is by changing what it's called? No. A dog's still a dog. You change the language. You change this. This is what you're saying. Is this? Now, I don't care which one of these you choose, as long as you don't choose this one. You cannot be an it. We don't allow that. We don't call human beings it. And if you want to be called an it, that doesn't mean that everybody else has to become an it. Say, oh, we're not saying it, we're saying Z. But what you're really saying is it. And you're becoming itified. Well, I'm not going to play a gender binary character in an Hollywood movie. Okay? In other words, it. Right? There are three genders. It's here in every single language. How do you expect me to teach Latin and Greek if I can't refer to masculine, feminine, and neuter? This is neither. This is a Greek word. Greek. Neither. It means neither. Neither masculine or feminine. Now, I don't care if you're a man who wants to be a woman, but you have to swim with the fishes here. You cannot be an it. Okay? It's not acceptable to be neither. You got to be one or the other. And so this is intuitive cognition. This is something which is directly known. What is intuitive cognition? Hard, soft, hot, cold, day, night. Intuitive cognition. Animals have it. Animals don't have concepts. So what you're doing with this is a social construct. This kind of garbage, this is a social construct. This structure here isn't. Every language has it. Seems to be easier to avoid this situation in English, but try doing it with some of the other languages, like the European style languages. Try doing it with Russian, French, Spanish. Try doing that. Seems to be easier to get away with in English, but it's impossible for me to teach those languages if I have to do that, and it's impossible for you to learn them. So what you're doing is a social construct. You're doing a social construct. He's, she, and it. That those three categories of gender are not social constructs. 76 genders is a social construct. And everybody's not going to believe it. You have no right to force it on everybody. We understand, we know the difference between he, she, and it without even thinking about them. This one. Oops, a little loaded. Just want to point out a couple more things. Philologus. I want to point out that this means love of logic. So I was talking about cultus, the cult of philology. It's because cult and culture. I thought I was joking about that. Cultus, Latin, cultus. Cult and culture mean exactly the same thing. They have this absolutely exactly the same exact meaning. Yes, it does. Cult, culture mean the same thing. Yes, they do. Okay. This thing is you got your logos. Logos is a word with a wide variety of meanings. It can be, in the beginning was the word. It could mean word. It can mean word. It can mean reason, as in the principle of reason. It can also mean reason for. It can stand for the meaning. It can stand for the meaning of a sentence. It could stand for the meaning of a sentence. It could stand for the entire, it could stand for an entire work, a book. Could be a book itself, a single work by an author could be called a logos. The entire thinking of all of an author's works, cumulative grand total, could be called a logos. An entire genre of literature could also be called a logos, the meaning of an entire genre of literature. But it can also mean this, it means logic. See, John Edwin Sandys was trying to say that traditionally, philologos is this expansive meaning, which means all of the things coming together in terms of every single aspect of classical studies all coming together in a manner of scholarship. But some people take the word philology to mean just simply being counted with words. And so he chooses the word scholar as opposed to philology. I choose to retain philologos to stand for the cumulative grand total of all scholarship coming together. Drama, architecture, drama, geometry, philosophy, poetry, the entire ball of wax. So I talk about the cult, which is the culture of philology. See, back then, and the people who are into this, see, not discriminating. See, if you want to study this, this is up to you. These people have crippled you and taken this out of your curriculum so that you can no longer understand these kinds of things, which leads to the development of like what we're seeing at places like Evergreen State College. It's because you've eliminated this kind of stuff from the curriculum. That we it's not like I've got it in. I really don't like the people in higher education. To a certain degree, I say basically deserve it. They reap what they sow. So this is the cult of philology, which is open to anybody who wants to study it. And so that brings us to the other thing. Last and final point. final point was the curriculum. The curriculum. So they wanted to revise the curriculum, and they're trying to say one ancient language, one modern language, and 3 semesters of computer science, if that makes any sense at all. Okay. If you're going to go into classical philology, there are 2 languages, Latin and Greek. A, Latin. B, Greek. 2 languages, you have to know them both. Some people, and so the traditional method is you take Latin first in the first year, and get through Latin 101 cycle, and then pick up Greek 101 the second year. The reason that you take Latin first is going to apply even to the modern languages. But so it's 2 ancient languages. Hittite is not one of them. Assyriac is not one of them. Medieval Arabic is not one of them. It's Latin and Greek. 1 modern language, no problem here. Okay, so frequently, this is good. So you're talking about people who are in this department know 4 languages already, as it is now, before they're trying to revise it here. All of us know at least 4 languages. All of us. Okay, so you don't poo me about our education. 4 languages for every single person who reaches the doctorate level has at least 4 languages. Right? English, Latin, Greek. Usually it's German. Because a lot of the scholarship is for advanced classics. I'm a contrarian. I took Russian. Right. Now, supposing that you were going to major in a modern language, and so frequently you see this kind of thing where you go, and they're down like third, 4th year. And then they want to go back to Latin in order to reinforce their Spanish. And I say, don't bother, because that's not how it works. You know, like the whole philology idea of word roots and things like that, it's not going to pay off that way. That's not the reason that you take Latin. You don't go back and take Latin unless you're going to continue studying Latin. If you're that far along in a modern language, there's no purpose in going back to study Latin. So what you really want to do, if you're in a modern language, is you want to take, if you can handle it, you want to take Latin and say Spanish, Latin, Spanish, Latin, Russian, Latin, German, simultaneously. If you could hack it, that's the way you really want to do it. And the reason is, it's not because of the word roots. The reason is because it puts into your mind a linguistic structure. And that's the simplest way. The Greek is more complicated. And then supposedly they have Sanskrit is preserve some of the cases and so forth, like that's even more complicated. Russian actually preserves quite a bit that Latin doesn't. Lumped it together, but it's the structure that it creates. Then once you have Latin 101, all of this is a drop kick through the uprights. All of it. You can learn anything once you get that. Once you get that basic structure down. So what you want to do is, if you're going into a modern, you want to do it this way. I don't understand this at all. I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. That's not what we do. If you want to be the kind of a philologist who just analyzes words in and of themselves, for themselves, with no concept of any relation to humanity, other than to technically know how many times this preposition has been used in the entire Greco-Roman library, statistically speaking. So you take Latin, and if you're going into modern, you take Latin and you're modern, and Latin and you're modern. So that's another thing I wanted to get that done. So that's probably it right there. Over and out.